Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're putting on our strategic venture builder hats and looking at Austin Kleon's brilliant framework from Keep Going, but through a very specific, high-octane lens. We're going to explore how to deploy his strategies as a literal psychological system override for the fast-paced, hyper-competitive startup ecosystems of modern India. Our ultimate goal? Protecting your most valuable asset, your long-term operational endurance. Okay, let's dive into a really critical diagnostic right out of the gate. Picture this. You launch your startup, you're executing flawlessly, and that content pipeline is running day in and day out. You're relentlessly reviewing client parameters, but then, about half a year later, bam, your mental bandwidth drops to absolute zero. Your mind feels totally empty, and suddenly, the market numbers are violently fluctuating. So why exactly does this happen? Well, this catastrophic system failure is locally known as mansik thakan, basically severe mental exhaustion. It's a highly dangerous state where your mental software essentially just crashes, and it happens because you treated a continuous, never-ending loop like it was a permanent destination. Keel's universal rule is that success absolutely isn't a finish line where you finally get to sleep. It's a relentless daily practice. To tackle this, we'll systematically break things down into 5 distinct phases: the diagnostic, the firewall, the operating system, the metrics detox, and finally, the India deployment. Let's jump right into phase 1, the diagnostic, and unpack this startup burnout epidemic. Here's the core realization you need. Success is not a permanent state. Kleon actually uses the famous Hollywood movie Groundhog Day to explain this concept, and it's brilliant. Think about it. Whether your video went completely viral yesterday or your B2B conversions flatlined at 0, you cannot carry that historical baggage into today. Yesterday's scorecard zeroes out at exactly midnight. You literally have to wake up and declare that the next 24 hours are under your control, executing your deliverables with an entirely fresh slate. Moving right along to phase 2, the firewall. This is all about architecting your internal sanctuary. To survive in our modern era of pure information hyperingestion, where WhatsApp triggers and algorithm alerts are attacking your brain from the second you wake up, you absolutely need a Bliss Station. In India, we might call this your Sukoon ka Kona, a corner of pure, unadulterated peace. You have to engineer a strict block for at least 1 to 2 hours daily, where the world simply cannot reach you. No phone, no feeds, no client fires. Just deep, uninterrupted focus for pure logic verification and design inputs. And you can systematize this mental chaos right now. When your brain is clustered with too many ideas, your operational bandwidth naturally drops. To fix this, deploy what we call the Clarity Blueprint on physical chart paper using 3 specific lists. First up, the to-do list. Tasks you absolutely must hit today. Second, the not-to-do list. Strict distractions you have to avoid. Third, an ideas archive, a storage drive for those strange, cool thoughts you can't execute right now. Just the physical act of writing this down instantly drops your stress levels by 50%. It's a game changer. Which brings us to phase 3, the operating system. Let's engineer some highly disciplined daily workflows. Look, screen dependency literally exhausts our biology. It's exhausting. To combat this, Kleon suggests building an analog shield. What does that mean? Well, before you dive into those complex digital spreadsheets, just use physical markers to sketch out your flows. This tactile physical connection actually repairs biological exhaustion and relaxes your neural pathways, making it so much easier to hit those high-quality execution benchmarks later on. It's also super important to consciously separate our workflows into 2 distinct phases. You have to allow for creative chaos during the messy phase. Let your raw production assets, your references, and your spreadsheets scatter while you build. Let it be wild. But the moment you finish, you need to ruthlessly clean your desk for the tidy phase. This physical act of tidying up signals a mechanical milestone closure to your brain before you shift into the next cycle. Now that number, 3, that represents the hours of strict airplane mode you actually need daily. And no, you don't need to be on a physical flight to get the peace of flight mode. Disconnect from the internet for 3 hours daily to deliver what we call PQO, or prolific quality output. Temporarily severing your connection to the web is honestly the ultimate operational hack to reconnect with your own deep internal intelligence. All right, let's jump into phase 4, the metrics detox. Or, as I like to call it, the algorithm bypass. The single biggest distraction in our ecosystem today is the noun, that identity status.
Thinking, oh, I want to be a famous creator or I want to be a multimillionaire CEO just makes you a slave to market validation. You've got to forget the noun and do the verb. Stop chasing the status and focus entirely on execution protocols. Write, edit, code, verify, align operations. When you relentlessly focus on the verbs, the status naturally becomes a byproduct.
There's just a massive difference between algorithmic slavery and grounded mastery. The reactive slave constantly carries yesterday's metric baggage, is 100% accessible to global digital noise, and obsesses over status labels. The grounded master, on the other hand, they deploy the groundhog protocol for a daily reset. They rigorously utilize a 2-hour Bliss Station blackout, and they strictly obsess over execution optimization. And to maintain that grounded mastery, you have to slay the art monsters. Basically, never let success degrade your core values. Keep your internal empathy and social compliance tightly locked in, because good character literally doubles your long-term asset valuation. Plus, you really don't need wild, crazy stunts to find great ideas. Just observe ordinary Indian life with extraordinary attention. Those baseline everyday inputs will drive incredibly dynamic hypergrowth insights for your campaigns.
Finally, we hit phase 5, the deployment. How do we actually implement these systems in the Indian context?
Well, for starters, you can instantly protect the structural energy of your engineering and optimization teams by coding a CRM lockout. Literally freeze external customer ticket assignments during your designated Bliss hour so your teams can execute database optimizations with zero load. Additionally, try switching your performance reviews to verb audits. Instead of tracking algorithm clicks, measure how many times your team refined a hook or altered visual formats this week. Consistency in execution will automatically stabilize your data graphs over time. You also need to aggressively reduce administrative cognitive load. Automate your standard financial and logistical workflows as much as humanly possible. By relying on software to verify those routine operations, you save your entire team from completely redundant friction. And that saved intellectual resource, it can then be redirected toward what actually matters, long-term scaling. Because remember, building a venture, it's not a 100-meter dash. It is an endless marathon. Markets are going to crash. Algorithms are absolutely going to change, and the noise will constantly try to drown you out. But emotional decoupling and relentless daily resets are your ultimate execution weapons. If you quietly sit at your Bliss Station every single day and just sharpen your tools, time will compound. Big momentum will return, and your continuous execution will build a permanent legacy. So I'll leave you with this final system check at the end of our explainer today. Regardless of the economic weather, regardless of those wildly fluctuating metrics, are you going to let the burnout loop crash your system, or will you upgrade your software, reset your routines, and just keep pumping the hand pump? The choice to keep going is entirely yours.